Hello, everybody, and welcome to Stoked, the ultimate Star Trek online podcast. My name is Chris.
My name is Jeremy.
Hello there, J-Man.
Hello there, Chris.
You know, we have a very chip-in-a-bottle episode, sort of an express edition of Stoked today.
Yep.
It's actually not entirely our fault. I'll be honest, I'm not trying to place blame. But we had a Foundry Files all lined up for you guys for the later half of the show, and well, that kind of got put on hold.
That's right. The Foundry got shut offline. We have a little more information about that later on, but really, I mean, we only have news this week.
It's okay. We got a
But
great
when you say
news
we
week.
only have news,
We got a ton of news.
we got so much news.
But we should probably cover our top story because it sort of sets a tone for all of the other news the rest of this week. So, J-Man, lay it on us. What's the big story?
The Perfect World acquisition of Cryptic Studios has been finalized.
Yay! Hey, belly clap, belly clap. All right, here we go. There we go, belly clap.
I'm not going to stand up, but...
Oh, well, do you want to share off your shorts? You got really nice pants
No?
on, actually.
Wow, thanks.
Nice. All right. Okay, so this is really cool because it means a lot of things, hopefully, that they weren't able to share before can now be shared.
Well, and just as you said earlier, this kind of sets the tone for the Ask Cryptic that came out on the same day. It sets the tone for so much that's been shared over the past few days since this finally became finalized. But before we get into all that, I mean, there are some details of the acquisition that can finally be shared.
You know, I guess it means one of the things we're going to know is probably the first things I thought of is, oh, man, we just got all those handy Atari points. That's probably going to get rolled back now.
Did you ever like Atari points?
No, I didn't like the logo. I didn't like the feel of it. It
kind of felt like the Big Daddy company kind of sneaking into the pockets of...
Yeah, I've never associated myself as a Atari player. I've always been a Cryptic player, and so it felt like that money was going to Atari.
Instead of to the product that you were actually enjoying.
That's a psychological thing, I know.
Right.
You know.
Yeah, but anyway, so those are going to go away. They'll be coming back to Cryptic points, and we do have confirmation nobody's going to lose anything.
Yeah.
If you purchased Atari points, they're just going to change the name, change the logo.
Yeah.
They'll be Cryptic points, and you'll still have the same amount.
Probably the other big thing is they're hiring.
Yeah.
That's big news, and that's a big change, and boys, that's sorely needed. We'll talk about that later.
Actually, if you want to go over to crypticstudios.com/jobs or something like that, I'll have a link in the show notes. You can see some of the different positions they're hiring for. We talked about it a little bit on the previous last week's show, but I get the impression from primarily from the Ask Cryptic that there are many more positions coming open in the near future that will be listed on their or on their openings page.
Well, that's cool.
Or that each one of those openings is like for several different hirings, including content developers.
Yeah, could be those postings are for multiple positions. Well, the other thing I think that's probably interesting for a lot of us out there is we've also got some information on the dollar amounts we're talking about here.
Now, some of you might recall when we first talked about this, when we first heard that Perfect World was going to buy it, it was like, I want to say 10 million, somewhere in that neighborhood.
And we were kind of like, oh, okay, well, that seems all right.
That's pretty respectable.
Yeah.
Well, the final price came in at a whopping $49.8 million.
That might as well be $50 million.
Yeah. Now, $30 million of that went directly to pay off Atari's debts.
$30 million.
Yeah, the Perfect World just said, you know what? In addition to buying your company, get in the black.
Yeah, so now Atari's in the black, and Cryptic's... so that means, okay, so 30 million of nearly 50 million went to Atari. Then how much did Cryptic actually end up costing Perfect World?
Just about $20 million, which is almost double the original price tag.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, that shows that they probably found those IPs to be extremely valuable.
Well, it shows a couple things. It shows, first of all, that Atari valued them, which I felt that they didn't. I thought that Atari just kind of acquired Cryptic Studios as a cash grab. I honestly feel that. And maybe that's just a source point and bias from many years of dealing with Atari.
But, you know,
previously
proof's in the pudding. Look, it kind of does seem like the series of history does sort of prove that point.
Right, exactly. Atari has been proven to make cash grabs in the past. I think that's why I felt that way. But additionally to that, Perfect World values the hell out of him. So much so that they paid more than the price of the company to acquire it from Atari, to buy out Atari's debt so that they could acquire the studio. They value it that highly.
This seems like a pretty substantial win-win for Atari, a win for Cryptic, and honestly, Perfect World walks away with a couple of fantastic IPs, one of which might turn out to be Neverwinter, it sounds like.
Yeah.
So they're going to get Champions Online, Star Trek Online, and Neverwinter, the new Neverwinter. So they actually turn out really well, too.
Now, just to clarify, they probably won't be able to acquire the IP behind Neverwinter just because Atari loves licensing fees as well as...
I'm sure that's going to be some
So they're going to hold on to D&D.
It's some sort of... on the live stream earlier, I equated it to... it's like... They got a divorce, but they're still sleeping with them on occasion.
It's a custody agreement.
There's a custody agreement, and they're going to work it out.
I think it's probably easier for our viewers to equate it to kind of how CBS oversees the Star Trek IP.
Oh, and
Atari will probably oversee the D&D IP.
See that?
Although I have to mention, Neverwinter's future is not finalized at this point. I tried to obtain an interview with somebody from Neverwinter, and they're saying that they're still not able to talk about it just yet.
Oh, okay.
So that could just mean that they're finalizing personnel and things like that, but it also could mean IP issues.
Could mean there's still some contracts that need to be worked out.
Yeah.
So any other things you want to mention in the...
Well, just the first round of switching things from Atari to Perfect World, or just getting rid of, like, changing Atari points back to Cryptic is going to start on August 16th or 18th.
August 18th, yep.
Which is just a couple days after this episode. So you're going to start seeing this changes immediately.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that probably leads us right into the Ask Cryptic.
Yeah, let's talk about this, because this was a huge Ask Cryptic.
Mm-hmm.
And the big piece that Daniel Stahl addressed right up top was the updated revised schedule for content release. And I think a lot of people were disappointed with the time estimates that were in there.
Yeah.
Probably the biggest...
I'll be honest, I'm going to be a little optimistic about that, but I won't hide it. I am disappointed as well.
I would say, the biggest pushback was the featured episodes. Boy, look at our chat room light up. Our chat room just went on foot fire when we started talking about this. So the people are a little upset because the featured episode has been pushed back to like October 22nd or something like that. The DOF system has also been pushed back. I don't recall quite what the date was in the DOF system. It's like it's October.
It's October as well. Now, I think if I remember correctly, they're hoping to have it on Tribble at the end of September.
October 20th is the chat room for the DOF system.
Yeah.
Now, of course, we did get information. We got news about the Borg encounters and how those will be rolling out through September, which is not this month.
No.
Which is next month.
Yes.
And we also got information about... and I'm trying to think of other new content they talked about, but I'm drawing a blank.
Well, it's tough. I think the big message here that we're getting about the new content is that Cryptic has been hitting tough times, but they acknowledge that this has been some of the worst situation that they've been faced with in a long time.
Space Invasion starts this month.
And the new lore episodes that one person in the chat room has mentioned, where actually I'll get to those in just a minute, because I think the point here that Dan made with not only telling us the new schedule and everything, but first of all, stepping transparency back up a notch so that we can see exactly what Cryptic is planning on the inside. During this whole acquisition, they had to be very tight-lipped about everything. Anything that could potentially impact the price of the company or the acquisition or the IP or anything like that was tightly under wraps.
Like information that really upsets your players.
Exactly, because that could have potentially devalued or at least devalued the impression.
Well, I think the people who have argued that there's just been too long. Here's how you can sum it up. Look at what was originally talked about at the beginning of this year regarding feature episode release. I think a lot of us sort of walked into this year thinking we were going to have at least a pretty solid amount.
In fact, if I'm correct about this, I seem to recall that originally we were set around May or June they would start doing featured episodes, and that then they would be every single week, that we wouldn't even have breaks really between them. And I recall you being pretty pessimistic about that at the time.
Yeah. And the thing is I'm now again pessimistic because the release of a featured episode in October to me means that that's going to be played up until the holiday season. Then Cryptic will be on, a lot of their staff will be out. I can't imagine another set of featured episodes coming out this year.
Unless, and I realize this is kind of a long shot, but if they've been stockpiling them so that they can roll them out. It sounded like, if I recall correctly from the Ask Cryptic, that they're aiming for 2 featured seasons, or 2 featured episode arcs in 2011 still.
I just don't see it. I don't see it happening. Maybe I could be proved wrong, but I'd probably be willing to bet somebody lunch on it, because I think the reality is that...
He looks at me when he says somebody.
I think that featured episode will come out in October. It'll play into November, and then you have Thanksgiving, and then you have the last few weeks before the end of the year. And it's just not likely that you're going to have a team get together unless you're going to make people work through the holiday. And if we recall from last year, the last week or so, the last couple of weeks in December, were pretty empty around Cryptic.
They were.
It was pretty quiet around there, as it should be. They should be home with their families.
Yeah, sure.
I'm not... I hope they do get to go home. So I am disappointed. In fact, I would say this is probably the most disappointed I have been in the game and where we're at in a very long time. Because I think those of us, when Season 4 came out, and Season 4 wasn't everything that was promised, those of us who said, let's wait, let's be patient, just give them time, this is now that time. We are now at that point where we'd like to have seen some results. And the answer we got is, you have a lot more waiting. Now, that said, there's a lot of really good reasons. And I go back to the point that I made like 2 episodes ago, where if the reasons behind the delays seem sound to me and just, then as a player, then I I make that work.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you can do things like Jupiter Force is doing, where they sort of turn inside and they create events to go to, and they use the game as a platform to have fun, not as a game to just feed them content. And the only way they can play is new content.
Right.
They utilize the existing infrastructure to have fun.
Mm-hmm.
Or, you know, you go play another game.
You could. Champions Online is free.
There you go.
And they're putting out pretty good content on at a steady clip.
And that's not a bad way to go, because some of the same gameplay mechanics still translate over to
I was also telling the chat room earlier that I actually made a Champions Online character that looks like my Star Trek character.
I love that.
So that I just act like it's him in the holodeck.
Yeah. I love that. That's a great way to go. What is his name?
Super Gray.
That's what it was. Yeah. So that's one way to go. I am disappointed, but I understand, and I realize.
Well, and let's talk about some of those reasons real quick, because not only in this thread, but also in a couple others that Stahl has commented on since the acquisition went through, got finalized. He's kind of laid out some of the problems that they've been facing over this. Not only was the code merger that they did at Season 4 kind of a fiasco, it didn't turn out smooth at all.
And he says that.
You're right.
But they've learned from that.
They have. And not only the STO team, but all of Cryptic. That includes the Neverwinter team, the Champions team, and the executive staff that oversees all of that. They understand more clearly that if they have to do a code merger of this type, when they bring their code branches together, they have to do a lot of things differently, because this has thrown monkey wrenches into every set of gears.
And when you have delays like that, as we know, if you throw off the system, it's like the manufacturing line just gets out of whack.
I mean,
everything gets delayed.
That's the reason that we've been having all these Foundry outages, because they changed so much of the back end. That's probably the reason we haven't had feature episodes, because they couldn't make them until they had the new code.
Well, the other thing you have to take into account is they're dealing with an entirely different, upper management change out, which probably has, reaches down into them. There's a lot of things there, and I get it, I understand. But I'm still, I can't help it. The way I feel is I am disappointed.
I think it's justified. I still remain optimistic about this. I think it's just because I've always looked at this as more of an industry and not just a game that I play.
Right.
So I just think I have a little more sympathy for the business side.
You've got a team of super passionate people who are really skilled and really know the IP and really know the game now. And you've got the foundation of Season 4 with the first person, with the new shooter mode. You've got a lot of things that were laid down. They've got the final things that they can get wrapped up. We do kind of feel like that's getting to that point. It seems like all of the things are lined up. And plus, if you're going to kind of fumble the ball a little bit, this is kind of the time it happens, when you have these kind of moves. Now that Perfect World's in and things are going to firm up, it's a good time for things to start rolling again. And so I think they'll get in that groove, and I think they've just been spinning out and looking for it. And I think they've got it now, and now we're just getting into it. But the result is you just have to have time to get this stuff done.
Honestly, and maybe I should save this kind of commentary for the morgue, but I'm going to throw it out here anyway, the timing couldn't be worse. There's so much hype going on around new, like, Age of Conan just went free to play. APB's coming out; it's free to play.
More and more people are getting into the new Star Wars
Old
beta.
Republic is coming. They're doing betas soon, and Guild Wars is building up their hype for Guild Wars 2. And so it's just, in terms of being an MMO in the industry right now, it's a tough enough playground without also having to deal with your own internal issues.
But you know what? The truth of the matter is it's not actually competitive, like all-out go time just yet.
Right.
I mean, they really are going to get things lined up for that, and I think they're going to have a good defense against those other games. And I think the reality is right now this is sort of like the preseason, and they're just getting lined up and getting the things in position.
Right. But if you start fumbling the ball all through the preseason, your final...
It's true, and it sucks
your
for us
playoff
as the cheerleaders.
Prospects are down the tubes.
All the gamers are the cheerleaders, and they're like, come on, we just want to get up and play. But the team's not quite ready yet, but I feel like we're just about there. I really do.
And they're going through another series of drafts. So maybe we'll get some star players in there.
Yeah, that's true.
We should not make sports analogies.
No, don't know anything about sports.
No.
But I guess I'll just say, I'm gonna stick it out again. I always do, and I'll say again, there are other games out there if it's driving you nuts.
Yep.
And I don't condone it really because I'm a lifer. It's not really something I could do anyways. But seriously, if you're really hurting, if you're a monthly player and this hurts you, cancel your subscription. It's the best way to let them know if you really feel strongly about something.
Absolutely. I feel strongly about the ability to vote with your wallet. Now, many of our viewers are lifetime subscribers and don't have the option. But if you are and you don't want to play right now, I don't really want to say don't, but it's your option.
Cancel, and then if it looks like they fixed the things that you wanted fixed, come back at that point. And you're not.
And that won't just show the STO team and the Cryptic team what's going on, but the executives and the new Perfect World overbosses, the overlords there, that this kind of thing cannot happen. So vote with your wallet.
And if
it
cool,
brings you to that point, then do it.
And if you're cool, take a deep breath, be patient, and you'll be all right. You'll make it through, and we'll have more information for you as it comes out here on stuff.
Just if you do cancel, come on back. It's gonna be fun.
Keep watching us, and then you'll know.
Yeah,
we'll give you a heads up.
Now there were a few more things in the Ask Cryptic I'd like to cover before we move on. First of all, is something that came up on last week's show that the Ask Cryptic, and as probably most of you know, the whole community is going nuts over this Tier 2 Nova thing.
Yeah,
the Rhode Island, the Nova variant.
Yeah,
and some
primary people
crux,
are saying it's way overpowered. Some people are saying actually, if you look at it, it's not necessarily. But then other guys are saying that extra buff slot. Can't get around it.
It really all comes down to that extra buff slot.
Yeah.
That is, and I actually believe I hadn't given enough brain space on our previous episode to actually get my thoughts on this finalized, but I do believe that's a bad move. And I think that it's also a good move that Cryptic has delayed the launch of the Rhode Island at this point.
They're like, hey, we're going to look at the feedback and see what people think.
I'm really hoping they go back on this, that they remove the extra buff slot.
I don't agree. I think they should keep it, and then they should start doing it to the other ships in the game.
Just up the power. Well, okay.
Turn the corner.
That's a valid point because as we all know,
you start here and you just start turning the corner.
The low end of the game is boring.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So why not more powers?
I'm honestly kind of wishing that my new character was a science officer so I could go get that ship so I could get through that lower end faster.
One more ability, one more option to use during combat.
I mean, let's not lie. That's why they're putting XP boosts in there. Just make it all, just start turning the corner, do whatever it takes.
Now, if I had this whole game to start over, I would probably make the beginning powers more impressive, more options.
I'm just like sitting here, man. I've got emergency power to shields. I don't even have high yield torpedoes.
Right.
It's so boring.
Yeah.
I want one more ability, please.
From that point of view, I completely agree. And giving more options to low end players, I think, is great. The problem here is that it's only if you pay for it.
Yeah. Now that's the part. Well, I mean, they're going to try to make everything achievable by emblems. So you're going to be able to go that route eventually. Though that's not a valid answer until you can actually do it.
Exactly.
So I do kind of not like.
In fact, the Ask Cryptic brought up the comparison of the Galaxy X, which for a long time was comparatively overpowered to its rank. Eventually available through emblems, through in-game means. But what was that? 2 months before that happened.
I got it right away. I don't recall.
I know. It was only at that point that it became a non-issue. When you could get it in game.
Yeah, totally.
But during that entire opening period where it was only available for refer a friends and then purchasable for $25.
It must be like the content team and the C-Store team are like on two different time tracks and they can't just somehow meet up and release it the same way at the same time. Because if they would do that, they would make so many more people happy.
It would be so much less griping on the forums. Their community would be, I think, in a better shape.
Or they just implement that thing where you can buy cryptic points with emblems. Or whatever they.
At least that's a workaround.
Yeah.
At least then there's an option.
But I guess if is it maybe overpowered? Perhaps. But if it's temporary and the other things and you have the other ships start getting those abilities, then maybe it's okay.
But then doesn't it feel a little bit like a bait and switch? If you go buy the Nova right now because it's got an extra buff slot and the cool console and everything.
Who cares if a science ship is a little overpowered at tier 2? It's a science ship. First of all,
I agree with
it's
that.
Not like you're gonna go rip it up in PvP.
I agree with that statement only. At that level. But when you start to extrapolate that out to what it could potentially mean, that's what people I think are upset about is the whole slippery slope concept.
And then what happens when you give the tactical side one for free to sort of balance things out, and then how come the science guys have to pay?
What happens when you roll out a tier 5 ship that's got an extra buff slot?
I go buy it immediately.
Well, yeah, you do. But then everybody that does has potentially an extra slight leg up in PvP combat.
Well, that was the argument with the Galaxy X, but...
Exactly. Yeah. And it only became a non-issue when, first of all, they made it available in-game, and then they rolled out all the refit ships that had the extra...
You convinced me.
So it's a slippery slope.
Yeah.
That's the issue here.
And the key is the good sign to take from all of it, though, is they delayed it by a week to actually review it and consider the feedback. And I think that is the point to focus on because it shows that while, yes, they want to generate revenue, they also want to really consider these things. And I like that. So that's what I like about it.
On the subject...
Some people were complaining it was delayed. I just want to say, I'm for it.
Yeah. On the subject of new ships, we have some information about the Enterprise F, how it's going to be obtainable. And I think people should be happy with this, especially in light of the recent Rhode Island thing. It's not a C-Store item. You actually get this. You obtain it in-game for doing a whole series of fleet actions. There's some sort of mission reward.
You're going to make me work for it.
Yeah.
Jeez.
I mean, the exact quote is, it's a reward for completing a fleet action series. Now, I'm hoping that this means it is a series of new fleet actions that are actually the story of the Enterprise E maybe being destroyed
No,
Is that too much wishful thinking?
I think it's already been confirmed that CBS put the kibosh on that.
Okay, well, if we don't see the E, I can kind of understand that, but at least a good introduction to
I'm
the
not-
whole.
No, I'm just saying you won't see it destroyed.
Oh well, okay.
I don't know about showing up
retired
in the game.
maybe?
Oh yeah, probably retired.
Yeah.
I think they tried to get permission to blow it up,
Oh,
and they got the no. So I don't.
well, they probably want to leave it open in case they want to do comic books and
well, no,
everything
CBS
like that.
just wants to sell like 1,000 books over the year, and they all taking place on the E. Like they
Right.
have this whole there's this whole book line coming out. I think that takes place on the E.
Right. So they can't blow it up.
Yeah. No, there you go.
Not that their canon is always
Yeah, I know, right?
uniform, but
I know, totally. There's also a space skill update coming in September that will combine Tier 5.
yeah, you know how because of all the refits that came out before, there's like a separate skill for
Yes,
the Defiant
okay,
refit,
yeah.
and a separate skill for Galaxy X. And,
My Excelsior is actually in the refit.
yeah. So
Okay.
you know how if you look at the skill tree, it's got like 3 in this one, 3 in this one,
Yep.
3 in this one, 8
Yeah.
or 12 or
Yep.
whatever it is in
Yep.
that Tier 5 stupidity. Well, that's going to be crushed
That's
together
awesome.
very
Good.
very soon. Coming soon.
That's something that might be another Season 4 update. A lot of the things in the Ask Cryptic were like, that's coming later in Season 4. It seems to be a little bit of a different approach to like Season 4 is going to be, things are going to be trickled out throughout it. And I guess one of them was like custom kits.
I think Al might have mentioned this in a previous interview here, that he wants to see maybe even each individual captain power become its own module
Yeah, that's
that can
right.
be plugged into your kits so that you can customize them in your own particular preferences.
What do you think?
I think that's awesome.
Of course.
And I think it makes perfect sense
And-
because then you can balance each individual item on its own. You don't have to deal with sets and balance them together.
Right. And think of the math segment opportunities, right? Tons of math.
Totally. Oh, and you know what? MMO players get a kick out of that.
Oh,
they
yeah,
love
yeah.
min-maxing and picking
Yes.
just the perfect, like,
Yes.
if you could have a kit that you had right now, but eject one power and replace it with one more.
Yeah.
How much would you do that?
Oh, I would do that.
All the time.
Yes.
And you try out different combinations.
Actually, I would very, very much like that because one of the problems I always have is like, okay, well, I'm grouped up with everybody, so I'm a healer, and that's what I'm really spec'd for. But when I go play by myself, it sucks.
Right.
So then I have another kit that I'm not totally awesome with, and I would love to just swap out a couple of the healer parts
Right.
so I had some combat ability.
Absolutely.
Oh.
And I think this is a no-brainer, really.
You know, the thing is, it was a pretty loose. It said late Season 4, early Season 5 is the date range, so it's pretty loose still.
We don't even have a firm launch window for Season 5 at this time.
Right.
Anyway.
Right.
So we don't even know when that's going to be.
Now, we haven't talked about some of the Borg invasion stuff, but a bit of tech that I think is also coming from that is this cross-faction STFs that are coming in September.
Yeah.
This is so great.
There's
So-
going to be a whole new queue system, basically, that you can enter so that you don't always have to fly to the system and sit there and wait for a team to form up.
and you can do private queues, which
Yes.
is awesome. So what it's playing off of, though, the reason why it's cross-faction, I think, is the Borg invasions are sort of going to put a halt to the aggressions
An
between,
armistice, a ceasefire.
Yeah, between the Klingons and the Feds. Even though
Yeah.
there's still going to be all the other storyline stuff going on, but like overarching, they're going to be at a ceasefire. So now you're going to go do STFs cross-faction. I don't know if
Which-
it's going to be all of them or what. But
It sounds like it will be, and huge boon to the Klingon players.
Yes.
I mean, I know we have a sister fleet, a Klingon fleet for Jupiter Force, and there's always people saying that they have to set up separate schedules for KDF STF runs to ensure that there will be enough people around and interested to run it, because they can't just log in on a whim and say, anybody want to do the cure tonight on the KDF side.
right.
There's just not always enough players around. So, and that comes back to the whole chicken and the egg thing for KDF content, but still, it's a huge boon to those guys.
You've got a new high-end ship coming, which we've got a screenshot of coming up.
Yeah.
You've got the new playable cross-faction STFs, plus the Borg invasion stuff. I think Cryptic is putting the money where the mouth is in the Klingon scenario as they add more stuff to see if these investments pay off. And I bet if they do, you'll start seeing more stuff done. I bet if these investments don't return dividends on the Klingons, I bet this is,
Par for the course.
I would say
it'll go back to
Klingons.
normal.
I would say Klingons. I would say Klingons need to put up or shut up after this stuff. I really do. If you don't start seeing people jump on and make Klingons and get them up to those STFs,
on
what's
that
it gonna
note,
take? What's it
on
gonna
that note,
take?
actually, I want to say that not too long ago, 4 or 5 episodes back, we talked about that Klingon Awareness Week, which is
Yeah.
apparently a great success, by the
Okay,
way.
good.
So I think that should be a regular recurring
Klingon
thing.
pride.
You KDF players need to not just play and encourage the devs to make content for you, but encourage your fellow players to play and do what you can to help them out and have a good experience on the KDF side, because chicken and the egg. I mean,
Chicken and
if
the
you
egg.
get more KDF players, there will be more content made for you.
Now, J-Man.
Yeah.
We don't have an official math this segment.
We
But,
don't.
we had somebody kind of do a little math for us. A
Well,
little
yeah.
book economy math, right?
Well, as part of the Ask Cryptic, it was mentioned that new combined badge currency is coming in the near future. Like a lot sooner than I thought.
Is it called the Amero by chance?
No.
No. Oh, okay.
No,
Okay,
it's
alright.
not the euro either.
No,
No, it's
okay.
not, or the crypto or nothing like that.
Crypto.
No,
Maybe
it's
it's
just gonna-
Bitcoin. No, this is cool because this is something that people have asked a lot about, and he gave some really interesting insights.
Yeah, actually, I'm not going to cover a lot of it because I know that economics probably bores a lot of you out there. But I have a link in the
it's
show
kinda
notes
fascinating.
that talks all about the differences between
A generator and
a
like
generator
sink.
and a sink.
Yeah,
right?
because
Those are the-
that was the question the question was kind of, it assumed you knew what a sink was. It
Yeah.
said, are you going to introduce an economy sink to the game soon?
because a lot of especially high-end players are sitting on mountains of energy
Yeah,
credits.
yeah.
They've got nothing to spend it on.
And so a sink would be something that you would go blow credits on that doesn't put it back into the system like the exchange
Right.
does.
Well, like for example, if you go on the exchange and buy a
just
rare
exchanging.
bridge officer, those energy credits stay in the system.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm curious to see what they come up with.
What he was talking about is some sort of reoccurring service that would be something worthwhile to enhance your gameplay, but also not required for your gameplay.
I have
so
a
I'm
massage
thinking,
therapist that does that.
well, what if they sold
wish.
at pretty pricey amounts in order to make it comparable to the C-store, XP boosts and things like that for energy credits?
Maybe that's the sinks.
It would be a regular recurring service that you could pay your energy credits for. Right now, the only recurring service we have like that is Taylor's
Do
stuff.
you think that's where they introduced the C-store to C-store points? Is that's the economy sink right there?
I think for certain items it could work, not
Wow.
for everything.
Wow,
I mean,
Jimmy.
I don't
Okay.
think that they'll ever make it so you can buy a ship with energy credits because it's relatively easy to farm massive amounts of energy credits. Whereas, you still want to make some money on the C-store. It's still a business. So
Or you're just doing a crazy exchange rate.
right.
Yeah. So that's interesting, though. It's great read, though, if you're just curious overall about
Yeah.
some of Cryptic's insights and some of the reasons why there's so many different currencies. Like, they actually, they have obviously thought this stuff through, and some of that is kind of hinted at in there. All right. Now, Massively does this Captain's Log article.
Yeah. Which is actually done by Brandon, who does the Priority One
Yep.
podcast.
And it is something that I don't normally get a chance to read every week, or every month. I think it comes out. But I got it
Pretty
this
regularly.
month. This was a
Might be
good,
bi-weekly.
bi-weekly. This was a
Maybe.
really good read.
Yeah.
It's all about the new Borg invasions coming.
Really solid information about
Yeah.
the upcoming Borg info,
Yeah.
including exactly how the event will break down in different...
like stages. They're going to
yeah,
roll it out
stages.
in like stage 1
Also, I
through
was just
3.
told in the chat room that actually Brandon doesn't do Priority One anymore.
Oh.
That's all right. He's still doing Massively, so we still have a STO proponent there.
There you go. So here's one thing that was a little bit of, I thought, new information because we weren't quite clear. They're going to have persistent ground areas where the Borg will invade. It's going to first stage 1, or I guess like the first rollout will
The
be
DSEs that we've been talking about.
But the new content's actually going to be these ground areas, and according to the article, built from the ground up for this.
Yeah. Now this is different than what we had heard before because we actually had a hint, and I'll be showing you a screenshot of this. It showed up in the patch note as a Defera invasion zone.
Yeah, where it looked like a new version of the Defera map that's sort of been Borged up.
Yeah.
And I wonder if we'll still see that.
Possibly, but this article indicates that this whole new map is entirely built from scratch from the ground up. Now, I mean, maybe it is, maybe it isn't. It could be a replacement for Defera, or even on the other side of the planet from the central city of
He
Defera.
implied that there's been some guesses that it could be the Orion or Gorn homeworld, and I would absolutely love to see
Orion
those
would be
places.
perfect because not only is it a Klingon, a KDF-centric thing, which is a good nod to them, but it also is in-fed space.
Yes.
The Orion homeworld is
Yes.
in the Orion sector, which is it's
It would
in-fed
be the
space.
perfect spot. I love it, and it makes
Yeah.
sense too. The other thing that he talked about is that there's going to be an introduction of a sort of a weekly event that you can opt in to go play, like just like
As part of that new ground invasion map.
you can just beam down there and go through it once a week, and I guess they're going to be huge zones in some circumstances.
Didn't the article say something like 25 to 50 captains?
in
So
one zone?
Even bigger than the current fleet actions we currently have.
Yeah, and at least in the space ones, that could
Yeah.
be pretty massive. So stage 1 is
DSEs. Oh, I also want to mention that along with the DSEs, there's some kind of cool tech coming with this. Kind of an extension of the sidekicking thing, the squad leader thing that's already in the game. But this doesn't require a target player, basically.
Right. So the whole idea is here they want to make sure that when you jump in, it's proper to your rank.
Right.
And so if you go into a high ranked one by mistake, you're going to automatically get the squad leader up to the zone. You don't have to be grouped up with somebody, and you don't have to stay within range of them.
Right.
You just have to be in the zone, and you get
Exactly.
squatted
And
up.
vice versa. If they make a DSE that's intended for lieutenants or lieutenant commanders, and you go in as a VA, you'll get ranked down.
Do I not recall that kind of how it worked in the really early beta? I guess I'm wrong on that. But But I'm glad to see it because then it's going to be a little more fair for
Well,
everybody.
that is going to be a boon if they can implement that into the fleet action queue so that you don't always have to, like, right now you can set private fleet actions and you can bring lieutenants into a vice admiral version of it.
Yeah.
But then you have to sidekick them.
Yeah.
But with this new way, if they make that available to the fleet actions, it's an automatic thing. And if you invite somebody of the wrong rank or tier to a particular
Just takes
fleet
care
action,
of it.
it just happens.
Yeah,
it's
that's
just
nice.
seamless.
So then,
It's a convenience thing.
after stage 2, where you get the ground and the new content, supposedly there's going to be a stage 3 and a stage 4, and we kind of think that the stage 3 sounds pretty solid. It's an STF revamp introduction.
Yeah, we already know Gozer's been working on these.
Yeah.
We've seen some teases of it and everything, and that seems like a solid timeline to roll these out.
Where we're kind of raising some questions is in the article in stage 4, it says there's going to be an introduction of Into the Hive, and it's going to be sort of a remastered or finished version of Into the Hive. I haven't seen any indications of that. You don't see any
Well, the
indications?
Ask Cryptic says that the Into the Hive mission is aimed for release around the holiday season. So
I guess
I mean,
that could maybe the timing.
that's 4 months away now.
Yeah, maybe
So
if
do
they
you think
stretch
this-
it out. Probably not.
I guess the Borg haven't been quick to invade so far.
But I'm bumped, J-Man. All right. Should we move on to how you're going to blow some of these these Borgs up?
Let's talk ships.
Yeah, this is awesome. One of the things that the Defiant in the game is always missed are those really epic quad cannons on the front of the Defiant, right?
Yes.
Those are coming, and we've got a screenshot of it, and it looks great.
And rumor has it that these are going to be some sort of a console. Yeah, rumor has it that this is going to be some sort of an upgrade to the Defiant refit that is a console that you could potentially put on other ships.
Yes.
That's a rumor. So we will see more
I like that
details
rumor.
on this
That's
as
a
it
good
comes
rumor.
out. But it's also getting model upgrades. Captain Logan's been fleshing this one out as well. And all of this is because the Defiant is presumably going to make a return in this upcoming
Feature
DS9
episode.
series.
Yeah, it sounds like we're going to get a bunch of Bajoran crap, too. Now, of course...
New earrings for everyone!
Yeah. No, because I think the Klingons are feeling a little bit like the Joneses these days. They don't want to be outdone. They're also introducing a new ship that it's also going to have the new quad cannon.
Yeah, well, that new X-Wing fighter that we made fun
Yeah.
of last week.
I mean, there's an action shot of that, too. It
There's
looks
4
great.
cannons on it. Why not have them all fire at once?
Yep.
So-
Now, so J-Man, there has been a little hint dropped by Dan Stahl in the forum that there's going to be new uniforms introduced with the Borg invasions.
Yeah.
Marine uniforms.
Yeah, well, like Makos, that kind of thing. Because
Right.
think about it, the entire war hasn't been taking place in space with only ship captains. There must be ground troops out there somewhere.
Yeah.
So now we're going to have some option, apparently, to with new costumes.
Can't wait to see Bort in his military uniform. It's going to be so adorable. Now, I feel really bad because this week where I really want to be is at the Las Vegas Trek Convention.
Why would you feel bad about that?
Well,
Everybody wants to be there.
because this week's... Hold on. Ready for this, J-Man?
Okay, okay.
This week on Tweet Leaks, we take a look at... We take a look at the Tweet Leaks from Las Vegas Star Trek Convention.
Well done, kind of.
Thank you. The music got me a little distracted. You like that? Yeah. There's not any music. No, but there will be, right,
In
Jamie?
post, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, now there will be.
No, actually,
Thanks.
we've got a couple images here. First of all, we've got some really nerdy shots from some of the Cryptic devs.
Yeah.
In Star Trek uniforms.
Thomas the Cat in 2 different uniforms. You go, boy.
Big
First
job.
of all,
See, there was one of those shots in there with the lady.
I know.
Attaboy.
I just want to say, seeing the Cryptic devs not just going to Las Vegas on their own dime and attending these things, but they're also interacting with fans, giving away prizes, and showing up in uniforms that they personally own. I mean, this is just more proof
I see
positive.
you want working on your game.
Yes,
Yep.
these are real fans.
I
These are
agree.
real fans we've got working on our project
That's
out there.
pretty cool.
You know?
So, what do you think? Any of these particular tweet leaks you feel like we should flute? Oh, Gozer has the. Did you know? Gozer has the TNG flute. I didn't even know you could get that.
I don't know where he got it, but he also got the writer from the that
Inner
TNG
Light
Inner
episode.
Light signed his script
That's
version
really awesome.
of that.
Yeah, that's really cool. Also, the Trekkie R&R in a blackjack
Yeah,
table.
there's just a group of Trekkies sitting
didn't
around a
see this one. I
blackjack
wanna-
table.
I gotta
It's
check
it's
this
just
out.
funny. But really, I think this all just goes to show you that what happens in
That's
Vegas
great.
ends
That's-
up on the internet.
That's really funny. That is great. What happens in Vegas ends up on the internet.
Yep.
Now, all right. Before we go, let's talk about the Q event that's happening next weekend because we want to wrap on a little commentary regarding a couple things, and we'll save that. But,
well,
yes.
this episode comes out on the 16th, and I've been hearing that there's going to be a double XP, a Q weekend coming up.
just sort of like before next week's episode comes out. So we or before the episode after this, we really wanted to kind of cram it in here, but like the 21st or the 22nd, is that what it is?
2021st, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's going to be a QXP bonus weekend.
Yeah,
So
so
there you go.
more extra XP for your alts. So you can get them ready for the Borg.
Now, J-Man,
Yeah?
we were going to wrap up this week's episode with a Foundry Files segment.
We were.
But as everyone knows,
It was even going to be a KDF episode, too.
I know.
Oh, I know.
Highly requested. Highly requested.
Uh-huh.
It was going to be a good one. It was gonna be really good. New bump's awesome, so that's good. But actually, Dan Stahl stopped by the forum and gave us a reason why it was down.
Yeah.
And I wanted to leave a space in here to just say, it kind of feels like going back to our very first story at the top of the show where we said Perfect World has completed its acquisition.
Yeah.
Transparency seems to be coming back with the Stowe team. And then one of our first major outages since then, we are actually getting a pretty good explanation of what's going on.
Yeah, and just like you said earlier, if we have a good explanation for what's going on, for these inconveniences that happen, it makes it easier to swallow. And really, I think that's what we've been asking for all along. It's why this content drought has been so killer, is because we also have not been told anything about it. I mean, like, people like Captain Logan have been great, showing us pictures of new ships he's working on, A+, but we haven't been really getting any information about what's going on behind the scenes. And I really think that's all changing.
I hope so.
It looks like it's all turning around. I realize this is really early in the game to try to really say that after Perfect World finally acquired Cryptic.
Good
but
indication.
just in the past couple days.
Yeah, there have been good indications.
Yeah.
It's good to see it back. And it's always been my favorite aspect of the way Cryptic interacts with the community. It's always been one of the strongest standpoints. And if you look at really other games, I mean, this is an angle to this game that I would sorely miss if I played another game.
Absolutely. The dev interaction directly with their community.
So it's good to
And
see
I
it back.
think that it's their fans.
Yeah.
They're fans, and I think that's why they communicate and why they identify with all of us so much.
And if you would like to communicate and identify with us, there's several ways you can do that. You can email us, STOked@jupiterbroadcasting.com. That's the email address. Or hit us up on Facebook. We are facebook.com/JupiterBroadcasting.
We also have Twitters, which is going to come in very handy because in a couple weeks we're going to be taking a weekend off for PAX.
We're going to be at PAX. So if you're going to be there, hit us up on Twitter.
Yeah, I am at JB Jeremy.
And I'm Chris LAS.
And of course, you can also stop over at JupiterColony.com or JupiterForce.org. We have forums at each for all of your Stowe talkings.
And why not get even more show? Join us live at jblive.tv on Saturday at 11 a.m. Pacific. We stream it live with our awesome chat room, and we hang out. And you know, every morning I play a little Star Trek clip.
You do.
A little homage to Star Trek.
You sometimes even play some Stowe, you crazy bastard.
I am so crazy, J-Man. So check that out. That's jblive.tv. And of course, you can subscribe to our show over at jupiterbroadcasting.com. So you just get it weekly in high definitions.
It comes to you.
In iPod definitions, in audio definitions, whichever definitions you prefer.
Audio definitions?
Probably
Is that a
fits.
real term?
I think so.
It is now.
Why not? All right, everyone. Well, thanks so much for watching this week's episode of Stoked, and we'll see you next week. I just drank a lot of Kool-Aid, so first it's cold.
So if he starts making this face,
Or if I start making this face. Or if I start making this face. That means I have a sugar high. So this is too much Kool-Aid in my belly. And this is Kool-Aid sugar high. And then this is, Kool-Aid brain freeze.
it says the end of the hive is aimed for the